If we look at the heart in the anteroposterior direction, this is how the heart is placed inside the body, as you can visualize it here. Alright, first of all, let's identify some structures. This is the right atrium, alright, where the superior and the inferior vena cava open. This projecting part is called the right auricle. This is the right ventricle, where the atria are going to supply the deoxygenated blood. Then from this right ventricle, the deoxygenated blood goes into the pulmonary trunk and towards the lungs. From the lungs, after oxygenation, this blood is returned through the pulmonary veins into the left atrium. This left atrium pumps the blood into the left ventricle, which then pumps it into the aorta, and from aorta all over the body. Alright, now if we talk about the apex of the heart, it is this part. This part is formed by the infralateral part of the left ventricle. It lies almost posterior to the fifth intercostal space on the left side. And this is the part why we call it apex. First of all, because of its shape, and the second point is that this is the part of the heart which doesn't move at all during the cardiac cycle. Also, this is the part where the mitral valve beat is maximal, and this is called the apex beat. Now let us talk about the base of the heart. The base of the heart, first of all, this is the anterior aspect. If we go posteriorly, this part forms the base of the heart. This base of the heart is directed posteriorly. Alright, look at this. The part which is present posteriorly, only this part is called the base of the heart. It is almost opposite. When the heart is lying in the anatomical position, it is almost opposite to the apex. It is formed mainly by the left atrium. This was the part of the left atrium posteriorly, where the pulmonary veins open. This part, all of it, is the left atrium. And a small contribution, this was the part of the right atrium, so a small contribution from the right atrium faces posteriorly towards the bodies of T6 to T9 vertebra in a standing person, and T5 to T8 in a person who is lying down, separated from the vertebral bodies. Now here are the vertebral bodies. It is separated from them by the pericardium, the oblique pericardial sinus, esophagus, and aorta. It extends, what is its extent? It extends superiorly till the bifurcation of the pulmonary trunk. As we saw, this is the pulmonary trunk. Where it bifurcates is its upper limit, and its lower limit is the coronary sulcus. It receives the pulmonary veins, alright, from the right and left sides in its atrial portion, and the superior and inferior vena cava in its right atrial portion. To know about the surfaces of the heart, first we have to discuss about two sulci. There is a coronary sulcus which is present between the atria and the ventricle. It is not a smooth line, and it is almost always filled with fat. It is going to be present on the anterior side as well as its posterior demarcation, which is very much obscured by the structures. Then there is a groove which is present between the two ventricles, interventricular sulcus or groove. This is also going to be present, this is also going to be covered in fat, and it contains the arterial supply of the heart, the coronary arteries. Alright, if we talk about the sternocostal surface or the anterior surface, this surface mainly consists of the right ventricle. All of this, what we can visualize, is forming the anterior or the sternocostal surface. But the main part is formed by the right ventricle. It also has some contribution of the right atrium on the right side. A narrow slip of the left auricle is also visualized, and some of the left ventricle is also seen in this surface. If we look at the posterior aspect of the heart, this is the diaphragmatic or the inferior surface. As the name indicates, it is going to rest on the diaphragm. Alright, now this surface is made up of 1/3 by the right ventricle and 2/3 by the left ventricle, separated from each other by the posterior interventricular groove, where the right coronary artery runs. It rests on the central tendon of the diaphragm. The right pulmonary surface. Why is this called the pulmonary surface? Because the lungs are present here. Alright, the right pulmonary surface is formed by the right atrium, and the left pulmonary surface is formed mainly by the left ventricle and a little part of the left atrium. This part, it also gives the cardiac impression on the left lung. Now for the porters of the heart, this is the anterior surface. If we look at this part here, this is the right porter of the heart. It is slightly convex, formed mainly by the right atrium, and extends between the superior and the inferior vena cava. Alright, this is the right porter. This porter is going to separate the posterior surface or the base of the heart from the anterior surface. Then there is the inferior porter. The inferior porter is this one. It is almost horizontal. This porter is formed mainly by the right ventricle and a little part of the left ventricle. It separates the anterior surface from the inferior surface of the heart, or the diaphragmatic surface of the heart. The left porter is nearly vertical and is formed by the left ventricle and the left auricle. This is going to separate the left surface from the anterior surface. Alright, and then there is the superior porter. This superior porter is formed from the right and the left atria and their auricles in the anterior view. This is the porter where all the great vessels leave and enter the heart. The pulmonary trunk and the aorta, they emerge from this porter. The superior vena cava enters its right side, posterior to the aorta and the pulmonary trunk, and anterior to the superior vena cava. Almost at this part is the boundary of the transverse pericardial sinus.